switch if you want. Hang on.
Uh-huh.
I'm in the middle of doing something else.
Are we on?
We are in fact on. Our theme is
I don't believe
playing,
you.
and it's totally muted. Hang on. I want to hear our theme, damn it, so I'm gonna...
I don't know, I kind of like that Okie Doke music they were playing just before.
There we go.
Yay!
I don't want to go 2 weeks in a row by blowing the theme.
It's just not a show without it.
It is just not a show without our theme. And with that bout of utter professionalism, we begin yet another episode of Cinema Smackdown for July 21st, 2019. Tess, as always, is with us, paying complete attention and not looking at her phone.
Complete attention to what's going on.
There you go. And the traditional swapping of the headphones has been taken care of.
Yeah,
God, be careful. This amateur behavior, they're gonna cut our pay.
Oh, dear. Yeah, it's on. You just gotta listen to those earphones. Are they both in? All right.
Well,
again,
whatever,
the professionalism goes on and on.
It's a great start to a great show.
It's gonna be a great damn show.
Oh no, I started another fire.
Did you now? Yeah. I just remembered that I haven't built the ads for this episode, so that's gonna be a thing I'm gonna need to do while you guys.
No, you're gonna just speak them out loud.
Well, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to do this in the style.
It'll
of
be a
Johnny
proper.
Carson from the 50s.
No, it'll be a proper podcast. We're back to that again. We've come full circle, and now it's like, this episode of Cinema Smackdown has been brought to you by Depends.
And the good people at Audible, they never miss their chance to shill on a podcast. I despise Audible. I think the quality of their product is below substandard what it needs to be in order to be sold. I love the idea of Audible that there would be an archive of audiobooks. However, their bitrate is so low that to my ears, every single product they sell sounds like a person speaking underwater. Here's a thought.
I know you want every
bitrate a little.
you want every podcast to be released on 78s, right?
Yes, I mean.
So if you don't like it, you can fling them back to people who made the podcast.
That, of course, is my thing of choice would absolutely be 78s with the very. We need to be.
It's the timber. You get the timber in the proper 78s.
Yeah, we'd be cutting records for every promo. I like that idea. We'd be pressing vinyl.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
It's a completely legitimate thing to do. All right, it is July in Montreal, which means other than scorching weather, it is also time for Fantasia.
Yay.
So today we're going to touch
Oh
on
no,
Fantasia.
again?
That is right.
Oh, it's like it happens every year or something.
It's like it happens every year.
Horrifying.
It's like it's been happening for 25 years.
Oh God.
With a couple of years skipped in the middle when there was some sort of negotiation issue or loss of venue. We did skip.
Oh yeah, there was that big kerfuffle when they switched from the Imperial to the Hall building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. If I'm not mistaken, the very first year it was just the Imperial.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
For several years, I believe.
One screen showing 3 movies a day, and now they're up to 4
And then that first year, I was there every damn day, all day.
Yep. And it was good stuff then.
Oh yeah, yeah. And shocking thing is, I'd seen most of it already, but this was my chance to see it on a big screen as opposed to bootleg videotapes.
And at the time, in 35.
Yes.
In pristine, in some cases, 35mm projections of movies that we had only watched bootlegs of Laserdiscs of. Yeah, it was a much better situation. I do remember that. At any rate, yeah, it is. We're back to Fantasia time of the year. We're going to talk today about a couple of films that Tess and I have seen. Shane has decided he doesn't watch movies anymore, so he has given up
I
on...
especially don't watch Fantasia anymore.
No, he's given up on anything to do with new cinema. He will continue to...
I will continue to be the expert of 20th century cinema. and not to mention 19th century cinema.
And 19th century cinema. And at some point, yeah, we'll learn all about that from Shane. Today I'm sure you'll have a lot of good comparisons between the movies we're watching.
And Train Enter Station.
Exactly. This is what I'm hoping for. This is why I demanded you be here today, despite the
fact... The Great Train Robbery, the original one from 1903.
Despite the fact that you did call in sick and tell me you weren't coming, And I vetoed that for you to come in
There
because
are
I
no
need
sick days on this show.
I need this commentary. I need you two to talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I take care of a little bit of behind-the-scenes business.
So, Tess, why don't you share with us what you're texting?
I was actually preparing for the show.
Oh,
Up until this very instant.
that well in advance research you always do.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm all ready to go now with a large list of movies that I might go see at Fantasia.
Oh, you're
Have you
you're
seen
in
none?
the might go see phase of your Fantasia experience?
I've seen a couple.
Okay,
But,
I'm hoping there's a couple in here.
Yeah. But I have a list of future possibilities as well. I think that's interesting sometimes, from time to time.
I have exactly one thing I'm looking forward to, and a bunch of stuff I didn't see, and some commentary to go along with a lot.
And meanwhile, I've seen nothing because I think last time we all went to see Atomic Blonde, and that broke me.
That broke you forever.
It broke us all.
I think we also all saw Valerian. Were you there for that?
No, I didn't go for that,
I
no.
went for that.
Did that at Fantasia?
Yeah, that was
No, I got to enjoy that one all by myself
You lucky
on Netflix.
You lucky bugger. Yeah, the thing about Atomic Blonde is that not only did I despise it in the room, grow to hate it more after I'd seen it, be increasingly angry at that film for having one great scene,
And being wasted in an otherwise dismal
exactly.
pile of crap.
Aside from all that, people now tell me it's good.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard.
I've heard that from a lot of people. And,
That's where I just...
We have a mutual acquaintance who thinks it's one of the greatest films ever made.
I don't need to know who that is, because
Because
that
you can
person
guess.
is already dead to me.
For a variety of
I'm just-
reasons.
you know
This is
what?
just the latest.
Based on you saying that, it's tabula rasa. I'm cutting ties with all my friends, just on the off chance one of them is a fan of that movie. That includes both of you.
Okay.
I'm going to start fresh. As of now, it's a no Atomic Blonde allowed lifestyle for me.
Well, we can reestablish our friendship right now. You can just say, so what did you think of Atomic Blonde? I thought it was garbage. Hey!
Oh, thank goodness.
We're besties!
You're right, I'm going to have to go through the list one by one. and individually question people now.
That will greatly narrow your dating life.
Trust me, most of the people that I date are not particularly interested in knockoff Charlize Theron movies with,
It's not a knockoff Charlize Theron movie. It's
It-
an actual Charlize Theron.
No, it's a total knockoff of Aeon Flux, I'll have you know.
Well, that's fair.
knockoff of about 500 things that did it better, including movies I hated. Movies I hated that were better than Atomic Blonde is indeed a bad review of Atomic Blonde. Let's talk a little bit about Fantasia. This year, I'm going to talk about... Actually, you know what? I'm going to break the ice by talking about Fantasia from last year. Because last year, there was an opening film which was not released until a month ago. So the film itself was called Nightmare Cinema. It was last year's opening festival film. It was shown once. I did not have a chance to see it then because it only played the one time. It was a very exclusive screening. It actually sold out very quickly. And it is one of these anthology horror movies. It was put together by Mick Garris. Mick Garris has been shepherding a lot of anthology stuff for the last 20 years. He did the Masters of Horror series, and then when Masters of Horror imploded, he took that to network and turned it into the same, essentially, show called Fear Itself, I believe it was called. And that eventually got canceled as well, so now he's trying the same gimmick of getting established filmmakers to do short films that they otherwise wouldn't be able to make into movies. And his newest outing is called Nightmare Cinema. Now, we opened the Fantasia Film Festival with this lecture. Now, I guess I'll preface this by saying Mick Garris is a massive hack. And everything he does is terrible. Now, let's keep this in mind. Now, here's the thing. I like Mick Garris. Mick Garris is a podcast host, and he's delightful.
Well,
He's a
unfortunately,
wonderful
he's
human
already
being.
stopped listening to the show.
He is a wonderful
Thanks for that
guy.
intro.
I don't want to slag him, but his taste, his ideas are always interesting, and by the time the finished product is out there, it's poor. It's always poor.
Welcome to Hollywood.
He is the man behind many Stephen King properties, such as Sleepwalkers. Remember Sleepwalkers? Of course you don't. He's also the man who made the 90s version of the Stand miniseries, which some people remember somewhat fondly, but is quite terrible.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, the crowning achievement of his career, of course, is the one-upmanship that he showed when he directed the remake of The Shining. Because nothing says I understand what the public wants more than crapping on Kubrick's masterpiece by making a movie with Steven Weber into the Jack Nicholson role. Now that was basically tantamount to a hate crime as far as I was concerned. Steven Weber is a wonderful, you've got your A actors, your B actors, he's an L actor. It's like we're getting down that list super far. He started off on a sitcom and he segued into drama, where he failed immeasurably to ever play anything dramatically. He's always like, wink wink, it's me, the funny guy. So playing Jack Torrance didn't really work for me. He recently did a very similar thing in a movie directed by Richard Shepard, where he shows up and ruins that movie as well by playing a heavy in a way that doesn't work. But at any rate, let's get back to Nightmare Cinema. So Nightmare Cinema is built out of 5 filmmakers' short stories. And in all but one case, he somehow managed to wring the very worst I have ever seen from 4 filmmakers I quite like. Now, he himself directed 2 segments, essentially. He did a story, and he also did the wraparound segment. The wraparound segment is beyond insulting to anyone's intelligence. It's people in a movie theater seeing movies of themselves on the screen be horrible. Oh no. Awful. Just awful. They have Mickey Rourke wander in and out like a Crypt Keeper character, telling people, that's how you die. It's a terrible, terrible segment. I will actually just talk about all the bad ones and then mention the good ones. So, Joe Dante makes his return to film after many years, making the worst thing I've ever seen him make, a short about a woman whose fiancé says, "Oh, just get this little bit of plastic surgery, my dear, and then you'll be perfect." And then she is accosted by Richard Chamberlain in a beyond elderly role as the plastic surgeon who's just a little too insane and wants to do some extra work on her.
Does she wake up as a human centipede?
That would have been a vast improvement to what I saw.
I hate when I go to sleep and wake up as a human centipede.
It is arguably the worst episode of Tales from the Crypt. And if you've ever seen that show and you understand the method by which they do Tales from the Crypt and the goofy twist endings and the terrible special effects, this is the worst, most rejected episode.
Isn't Richard Chamberlain old enough to play the Crypt Keeper now?
That's a good David Slade did a segment called The Way to Egress, and it is an awful, awful scene of a woman waiting in a waiting room for her children, I think, to be seen by a doctor, and it is essentially the lowest low-rent Jacob's Ladder ripoff I've ever seen, because it's just people who suddenly look broken or scarred or whatever. It's awful. It's filled with hallucinations. My favorite kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
We follow up that one with my favorite filmmaker who could possibly have been included in this, and again, turning into the worst work of his career. I speak of Ryohei Kitamura, who made a short called Mash It. Mash It is essentially a priests and nuns taking care of kids, and the kids are being possessed one by demons. And what do these demons really want to do? Well, they want to walk those kids up to the roof of the school and have them jump off. Over and over! Because that never gets dull. An incredibly ill thought out and poorly finished film.
Well, I think you're having extra high expectations of Kitamura. He has his fair share of crap in his career.
Not after, say, 2003. I like just about everything.
Okay.
But finally we come to the good piece. There is a good piece, and in fact it is the piece that opens the film. And I kind of can't recommend something more than I can the first 20 minutes of Nightmare Cinema, which is crazy because I've just been crapping on it for the last 7 minutes. I will save my impression of what I think of that first sketch until we come back from commercial in just a moment.
I'm excited.
I just realized I'm talking all the way into the ad break. So much bile do I have for that movie that I just can't be
I can't
stopped.
tell.
Alright, I'll finish talking about this movie and then Tess, tell us a little bit about what you think about things you did see or want to see.
Yep.
I've got like 8 movies I've seen that I could talk about, but
Damn, you've been
only 3 of
industrious.
them.
Oh,
She's
okay.
looking at her secret pirate map
Oh,
right
there's
now.
nothing here
What
you
is
want
that?
to talk about, trust me.
Oh, let me see.
No. Every time I
Oh,
show
I
you
know.
something, you give me crap about it.
I
It's
want to know
fine.
what you've seen.
No, we're good. You'll learn about it on the air. Pay attention.
You're so obnoxious.
Yeah, that's me. Oh, we're almost back. Alright, after talking, let's do our station ID. This is CJLO1690. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. I'm Michael Brody. I'm joined today by Shane Simmons and Tess McRae. I think I didn't do any introductions to the top.
You did. You introduced.
Did I?
The usual suspects were here.
I was flustered. I have been talking for the last couple of minutes before the ad break about Nightmare Cinema, the Mick Garris anthology horror film that opened last year's Fantasia Festival, which I pretty soundly despised, other than the...
I'm sure it was met with many happy meows.
There is an exception to my hatred of this movie, which is the first sketch, the first short, which was called The Thing in the Woods. It was directed by Alejandro Brujes, which I might be mispronouncing horribly, but I believe that's his name. He's the director...
No, it's pronounced Basil Polidorus.
Callback!
Callback!
Callback from last week. He is the director of a somewhat well-known little movie called Juan of the Dead.
Oh, that one. Yeah. I quite enjoyed that. That's Cuban, Havana-based zombie film.
I thought Juan of the Dead was fine, but this is a little mini masterpiece. It is a 15-minute, fully realized slasher film. On the level that you get to know characters, you get to watch them die horribly, you are moved, things change, there are huge twists, and it actually works as a whole. The entire piece is quite satisfying. I vote that this be cut out of this film and projected separately all over so that people can actually enjoy it.
Well, we could split them all up into their own feature films, like Planet Terror and Death Proof.
Because nothing's better than that extended cut of Death Proof where he adds back in all of the cutting room floor stuff we didn't need.
Factory floor sweepings, come on, nothing better.
Factory floor sweepings. So that's me opening the show with Fantasia 2018. But Tess, why don't you tell us a little bit about Fantasia 2019? And some stuff that you either have seen or are looking forward to.
Well, I have a long list of movies that I'm perhaps looking forward to might be a bold way of putting it, but that I might go see.
Not dreading.
I would play. Well, some of them I'm dreading. But I did see Paradise Hills, which is a Spanish production, but it's an English language film with mostly American actors, with Mila Jovovich and another known actress whose name I can't remember.
I can't wait till the day they invent the internet and we can start looking stuff up.
When we can start being prepared for things.
Yeah, but
Okay,
we need to
just
keep
tell
it
us
in our
about-
pocket somehow.
If only it was small enough for me to look it up all
Shane,
the
the
time.
amount of times I've had to say to you, keep it in your pocket.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a Spanish film by a director, Alice Waddington, who I'd never heard of before. Exciting for everyone to hear that tidbit. Emma Roberts, that's the
Yes, I did look this up.
So, I was excited for it. It looked very kind of surreal, strange. The costuming and the sets looked really cool. It was beautifully shot, really, really gorgeous. Very interesting, unique kind of sci-fi world that's created with this kind of rococo, but hyper futuristic rococo aesthetic. The costumes are amazing. The visuals are all really, really cool. The colors and everything like that are really cool. The movie itself, it's sort of a surreal kind of fairy tale-esque story about this young woman who's sent by her family, presumably, to go to this sort of rehab for young women who are too rebellious and be reprogrammed to want to marry this guy, whatever. With that kind of plot, I was hoping for something a bit maybe subversive, vicious, aggressive. It turns out to be pretty cookie cutter in terms of plot structure. It's kind of just a cookie cutter sort of fairy tale-esque plot structure. So that was a bit disappointing. And there's not much depth to any of the characters. They're kind of just flat characters. You're not really interested by anything in the film, character-wise. But it is beautifully shot, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun time for the hour and a half that I spent watching it. It was positive, but kind of underwhelming in terms of the actual plot and story.
Sounds like your standard Fantasia movie.
Yeah.
A lot of experiences I've had there. It's like, oh, this is fine.
Well, sometimes they're really poorly shot and look like they were made on an iPhone, and you're like,
I've got 4 of those.
Yeah.
But we'll get to them in a minute.
And you're wondering why I'm not coming out in this heat to go to Fantasia this year.
All the theaters are air conditioned. You're doing it wrong, man.
Shane,
Are they still queuing everyone up outside to make it look like it's really busy?
Not if you have a press pass.
Shane, I have a VIP pass to Fantasia because I am a professional journalist.
Well, I know.
They accord me.
I know who to mug after the show. Then
They accord me the respect I deserve. So what I do is it's very simple. My home is air conditioned. I walk out my front door. I step 2 steps into the Fantasia supplied limousine.
Oh, okay.
I
Of
take
course.
my seat. They drop me at the door to the seat.
It has a full bar, right?
I mean, there's
Obviously,
a full
right?
bar
Okay.
at every step
free
of my
service
journey.
Okay,
lobster
good.
Station,
Because you have to be
front
really
door.
drunk to sit through some of these movies.
Oh, I've been pretty drunk during
Look,
some of these.
I don't want to shit too much on the Fantasia movies. A lot of them are really independent films that are made for a nickel. But I will say it is hard to sit through movies when they are really poorly shot, sort of like shaky, badly framed.
And you're enduring them on the biggest
And you're enduring,
screen.
and it's a huge screen production, and you haven't paid any money because you're.
And the entire audience is meowing.
But yeah, the audience is meowing and causing a ruckus. I'm fine with the audience meowing and causing a ruckus, but yes, I will say some of them are hard to watch. That being said, this one was not hard to watch. It was very beautiful. It was great. I love seeing Mila Jovovich and things, even though I found her character was not as developed as it could have been, and the sort of quote-unquote twist ending was very yawn, I hate you.
Well, remind us of the title again, Tess.
It's called Paradise Hills.
Alright, well,
So it definitely had this, well, it hooked me in with this kind of dystopian, futuristic rococo thing, and it does have that element, but they don't really explore that at all. It's more just the kind of cookie-cutter romance-y type thing that ends up being the thrust of the film.
so sort of a middling thumbs up from Tess on this movie.
I will say it was really pretty, and I would be excited to see something from the same director with a different writer.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. I watch movies and I just think, I will watch whatever you do next, but please make it better.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. It's
Find
just,
somebody else to write your dialogue.
you know how to
and
make things
plot
look
and
right.
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of star power in these mentions. Somebody appreciated this person.
Yeah.
All right.
Star in quotes.
I'll mention one movie that I saw that played at Fantasia this year. It is a movie called Darlin, Darlin apostrophe. It stars and is directed by Pollyanna McIntosh, who some people may know as the woman on The Walking Dead who speaks in broken English, despite the fact that society only recently crumbled.
Oh, yes.
At any rate, she didn't get her start on The Walking Dead. She got her start in a series of films, of which this is the latest. Now, it would be weird to say this is the 3rd movie of a trilogy, but it kind of is, despite the fact that these movies are not really related, other than she kind of plays the same character. All of them. She plays a character known as the Woman. Now, this started off with a movie called Offspring, which is an adaptation of a Jack... what's his last name?
Ketchum?
Yep, Jack Ketchum novel. And that movie was successful enough to inspire Jack Ketchum to write a sequel to it called The Woman, where we followed one cannibal character living just outside of, say, society to a degree. And he wrote a novel along with Lucky McKee that they made into a film called The Woman, starring her and quite an excellent little cast. The Woman is one of my favorite all-time movies. It absolutely stands on its own. It is a perfect little film. You do not need to watch Offspring to watch The Woman. In fact, I strongly suggest you do not. Just watch The Woman. It's essentially the story of a feral human in the woods who is caught by a gentleman who believes, I can educate her and make her a normal person, brings her home and starts keeping her tied, begins to give her lessons about how to be a person, while his family is basically obliviously living in the house next door to the garage where he's keeping her. And the movie is astonishingly harsh. To a degree even I was moved by. It will test you. And it is a very successful movie. It has a phenomenal tone. It is an absolutely satisfying film. It's called The Woman. It's directed by Lucky McKee. It's from about 8 years years ago. The new movie is called Darlin'. Again, a very loose in concept sequel. This movie is not by Lucky McKee, not by Jack Ketchum, who passed away a few years ago. It is entirely written and directed by Paul Ann McIntosh. It is not a bad movie, but I would call it entirely unnecessary. It's fine. Here's more wacky adventures with these characters. Okay. And we needed these because what? And there's no real answer to that question. It's a bit light, it's a bit loose. It's a little violent in places, but it doesn't feel like it matters. She's a perfectly fine filmmaker. I hope that she makes 25 more movies, and that even if it's 25 more sequels to The Woman, they all...
Well, no, I'm looking forward to a few more down the road in the series where the woman gets a job at Target and has to commute to work daily and has civilization just flowing through her veins.
That could literally be the next time.
Awesome.
And,
looking forward to it.
Or we just skip ahead a couple extra years. She'll team up with Rick Grimes, and off they go on his cinematic adventures.
Coming soon to a theater near you now.
Tess, do you have another one for us? That was my review of Darlin', and more importantly, from a few years ago, The Woman, which is the movie I do recommend.
Yeah, I went to see Jade's Asylum.
I too have seen Jade's Asylum.
Oh, have you seen Jade's Asylum? This is more in line with the kind of movie I was mentioning that I hate seeing at Fantasia, where you go in expecting to see a film, and it's actually just a sort of student's short that someone
amateurishly
shot at their friend's cabin because they happen to know somebody who has a kind of cool-looking cabin in the woods, and they were like, well, I own a DSLR camera, you own a cabin, let's just get together with a few of our friends, film each other staring with no facial expression into the distance for a few hours, and then cut that all together, and we'll pretend that it's a feature film.
Yep, horrible movie, entirely worthless. I wish I could get my time back.
I wish that whoever writes the synopses for the Fantasia films had some kind of job accountability where we could throw them in shackles if the synopses are there's some kind of rating system for how close the synopsis is to the film, and then after a certain number we just throw them in the St. Lawrence River with cement boots on, because literally the description of this film included amazing practical effects, sort of ghostly, eerie creatures coming from the woods. I was like, I'm into this. I love practical effects. I love ghostly, eerie creatures. There are no good practical... Okay,
I don't know what you're talking about because, those Fantasia program descriptions are never hyperbolic at all.
It's completely fake. I mean, there wasn't even the pretense of good practical effects in this movie. It was really... maybe I'm talking too much about practical effects, but I love practical effects, and I wanted to see some cool forest monsters. No, there is nothing. So
I've gone through Fantasia programs and been assured that every single movie they're playing is going to rock my world.
I will remind listeners you're listening to CJLS 1690. The show is called Cinema Smackdown, and today we're talking about Fantasia, the Montreal Film Festival that has both delighted and disappointed us
for many, many years now.
For many, many years. It seems like we're mostly talking about stuff we don't like about it this year.
Well, I liked Paradise Hills, I will say. I'm glad that I got to see it. And I would recommend seeing it if you're into visuals and cool-looking sci-fi stuff. So.
Or if you got a real thing for Mila Jovovich or Emma Roberts, this is your movie.
Oh, Mila Jovovich is great. I mean, I can't complain about that.
The rumor is they make out a lot. Is that how it works?
I wish.
That would have been a more interesting.
It would have greatly increased my enjoyment of the film.
I also saw Jade's Asylum, and I'm going to go ahead and lop it into a category of films that I don't want to discuss. So here are 4 movies I wanted to bring up very briefly. Jade's Asylum, The Deeper You Dig, Knives and Skin,
I was going to go see Knives and Skin.
And Homewrecker. All of these movies fall squarely into a category I like to call too amateur to be projected on a screen. You have managed to kind of offend me with your movie. It shouldn't have been at a festival. It is... All of these they're sincere films. They're trying. And anybody programming a film festival should have said, wow, we've got 120 movies this year. That's plenty. Do we need 134? No, we do not. Yeah. So these 14 unwatchable films could have been cut from that list.
Look, I don't hate the people who make these movies
because
they're sincere, enthusiastic filmmakers who are just trying to get get their feet wet, start to understand how to make movies.
But that's when your film festival needs a form letter that says, thanks for your interest. Better luck next time.
Yeah, exactly. I understand where these people are coming from. I love that they are making movies for, a buffalo nickel and trying to get something out the door. But yes, a lot of these movies are unwatchably bad.
I will further qualify these movies as saying that Knives and Skin is below Jade's Asylum level.
Oh no!
In terms of quality and
it looked interesting
accomplishment.
based on this one still they had.
It's hallucinatory. If you like hallucinatory movies with no logic and a bunch of aggravation, it's your movie. I can't watch those. However, here are the other two, Deeper You Dig and Homewrecker. Now they're cut above Jade's Asylum. They're still terrible. They're cut above. They're both movies that have situations in which people are essentially trapped with other people because, we can't go to another location.
Because somebody owned this cabin.
Exactly. And you feel through the dialogue, which is only there to tell you over and over and over again, I'm stretching this scene out because if I don't stretch the scene out, this will be the shortest short you've ever seen. Although we need it to be 90 minutes so we can pretend it's a movie. They're both films where people are just stuck in locations talking at each other about the one thing the movie is about until it ends, which is excruciating on every level.
Yeah.
It's called writing. It's the one part that's free. It's the one part you could do by yourself with a typewriter, come up with an actual conflict for these characters, and I might be happy. Don't just tell me, you saw something you shouldn't have seen, so I'm going to keep you in this room and debate whether or not to kill you for 80 minutes while we don't say anything except, well, probably have to kill you soon, so tell me more about your family until then. Not that is a plot point in either of these films, but it's the type of thing these movies drag out forever. The movie Homewrecker is about a woman who's so lonely she kidnaps another woman and they just sit in a room while she's like, but isn't this part of life great and this part? And the other woman just keeps saying, but you kidnapped me for the entire running time.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It looked fun based on the poster and it looked kind of bright synth colors.
It is right on the line of watchable.
Okay.
That's my review. Right on the line. The most interesting thing about the movie is that the star of the film is Tommy Chong's daughter, which is kind of interesting, and it's not Rae Dawn Chong. He has another daughter.
Well, look, there's a place for these types of movies that are not real movies that are made by people who don't know what they're doing, and that place is either at your undergraduate final exam in film school in your first year, or at a free link on Dropbox that you send to your friends and family members.
Indeed.
And I love these people for making movies, but I don't want to go watch a movie that was shot, on a Rebel T3i with no framing, no writing, and no actors, projected huge on a screen that I have to then sit through for an hour and a half because I can't leave once I started a movie.
If it took them approximately the same amount of time to make the movies just for you to watch it, it's probably not a very good film. So.
I'm not saying there's no good movies that are shot in one location or on a Rebel T3i, but there has to be something there. There has to be a little something there. I'm not really that picky when it comes to indie films. I loved a movie that Michael hated, which was the Florida one there, Florida Sunshine.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to. My bile for that. My bile for all of these
I love
things.
that movie, or Tangerine, which is another one of the similar genre where they're it's not shot particularly professionally, but there is thought put into the framing.
Or tolerably on any level.
Okay, I disagree with you on that. There's thought put into the framing, there's thought put into the colors, there's thought put into what's being shown. It's true that it's sort of cinema verite style, so it's not a traditional narrative, but to me, I am very happy to go and sit and watch these kind of art house narrative-free free-form movies.
Narrative-free.
If there is something...
What an endorsement.
if there's some kind
content
of...
light.
It can be content light, but if there's something, anything there. But that is not the case for Jade's Asylum.
Shane, why don't you tell us something about Fantasia, even though you're not going this year, haven't been in years, and will never return?
You went last year.
Did I go last year? What
No,
did we see?
Was that 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago now, yes.
Tell us a memory of Fantasia, something positive to take us out of the tailspin.
Oh, God. Yeah, put me on the spot, why don't you?
Well, you can take a moment to think about it. It can be a treasured memory.
Why don't you do 10 or 20 commercial breaks while I think of something? Anything.
I can quickly talk about one more film I saw at Fantasia this year, which is a cut above what we've been talking about. It's It is a movie called Porno. It is made by someone whose name for me is nearly unpronounceable. It's Rekla Resala. I don't know if I'm saying any of that right.
Probably not.
But this person made a movie called Porno, and again, I want to go with, this is a very sincerely made attempt at making a film. It is 100% a one-location movie, which is a cinema, where some young people are working in the cinema, and after hours, they want to watch something. The movie takes place in the early 90s, so their options are Encino Man or the mysterious film reels we found in the basement. The mysterious film reels in the basement turn out to be a pornographic hallucination movie. By watching it, they bring to life...
coincidentally, so is Encino Man.
They bring to life a demon who comes to the cinema to murder them all. Now, again, sincerely made, sweet film, nice try, good
Please
moments.
tell me the demon is played by Pauly Shore.
No, it's played by a naked lady, the whole thing is. With the most unimpressive merkin you have ever seen.
Oh, so like Pauly Shore.
It may well have been Pauly Shore's head that was just... At any rate, is a demon who comes in and starts murdering them one by one. Ultimately, it's a terrible, terrible movie, but I give it huge points for taking a big swing, clearly wanting to be a good movie, trying as hard as it can, but there does come a point at which that once the premise is fully settled and you realize, well, we're basically never going to leave this cinema, and this character's going to run around with a lot of barricading doors and screaming, and there's not a lot else. There's some blood effects, there's some violence, ultimately, it's fine. I guess that's my review. It's fine. It's definitely a much more accomplished movie than the four we mentioned earlier, but it's not something I'd write home about. Again, the person who made this has some talent. I would definitely check out the next film they did. If I will probably never be able to pronounce the name, I'll try again. Keola Resella. That's a huge swing on my part trying that out. There should be a pronunciation guide on IMDb. What do you think?
Or like on the dictionary app that just actually says it for you.
Yeah, but those are 99% wrong. The pronunciations they just sound off.
They're a bit robotic, but they're at least correct.
I'm still struggling to say Ryue Kitamura properly.
Right.
And I've heard that said by people who've worked with him.
Yeah, well, you'll notice I only ever refer to him as Kitamura, because I'm pretty sure we got that part right.
Let's hope so. So Shane, tell us about a movie you've seen at Fantasia. Any movie.
Okay, fine. One of my very best experiences at Fantasia was seeing the 2002 Godzilla film, Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah All-Out Monster Attack.
Which was a then new movie?
It was a then new movie. So that's, like I said, it came out in 2002, so that's how long it's been since I've had a good Fantasia memory. But the filmmaker was there himself, Japanese guy, not Kitamura. It's Shizuki Kaneko, I believe. Okay. Now, he's the guy who did the Gamera trilogy leading up to that. And everyone, he came to Fantasia before that, and people were asking him, when are you going to get to do a Godzilla film? And he's like, well, maybe in a different rights owner, blah, 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 blah. So finally, he showed up and through a translator said, well, you've been asking me, where's your Godzilla film? Here it is, finally. It is easily my favorite Godzilla film ever made.
Oh, nice.
Because it changes it up. It was part of the Godzilla Millennium series, where after two separate Godzilla series, the first one from 54 to 75, and then the reboot in the 80s into the 90s, as of 2000, and post the terrible American Godzilla film, the Japanese took their rights back and said, okay, we're going to make a series of Godzilla films that do direct sequels to the original Godzilla film and ignore all other Godzilla films. So each filmmaker, Kitamura being one of them, got to have a stab at doing a Godzilla film that could play with the concept. And what Kaneko did was he moved it less. We moved it more away from science fiction and more into mythological fantasy, with interesting backstories about how all the monsters are imbued with the spirits of the dead who died in Japan over thousands of years, and the reason Godzilla is such a villain, and he's incredibly villainous in this particular film, is because he was created during the war, so he's equally imbued with dead American spirits who died fighting Japan, so he has a hate-on for Japan, and he wants to stomp it, and the other monsters have to team up to take him out.
That sounds great.
But the great moment was, at the beginning of the film, this was still, the Roland Emmerich Godzilla film was still fresh in everyone's memory, and no one was pleased about it, of course. And there's a moment early on in the film where the Godzilla task force, the task force who are in charge of dealing with kaiju attacks, they're looking at old footage of past kaiju attacks, and someone's on stage saying, there was this incident and that incident, and then the thing in New York with Godzilla, and one guy turns to the other guy in the audience and says, that was Godzilla, and the other guy says, well, the Americans think so, but we don't.
That's perfect, of course.
Yeah, and the audience erupted into cheers and applause, and it was great knowing that the filmmaker himself was there to appreciate that moment.
That is amazing. Well, that is truly a wonderful Fantasia experience, especially if it turns out to be the favorite of all the Godzilla movies you've seen. So that's an excellent way to go through it. Let's talk a little bit more about films. Let's see, we have a minute before our next ad break. I will quickly mention that I saw The Art of Self-Defense, which is the Riley Stearns movie starring Jesse Eisenberg. Great movie, actually. It's a pretty great movie. I don't know that it's really a Fantasia movie. It felt like one of those, it's a little weird, let's throw it in the festival since it's about to open, we'll just show it real quick.
Well, Jesse Eisenberg's just killing time until, of course, he gets to play Lex Luthor again. That's happening any minute now, right?
I'm sure he'll play Lex Luthor briefly in the Zombieland sequel. They'll do a quick cameo of that somehow. We'll throw both characters in it.
One of the zombies will tear his wig off.
So, The Art of Self-Defense by Riley Stearns. Stearns had previously made a movie called Faults, starring the great Leland Orser, who's an actor I adore. You may remember him as the guy with the weird thing strapped to him in the movie Seven that he was forced to have sex with a prostitute with. He's that guy crying in a booth for 4 minutes. I do love that actor, though. He's great in everything. It's him and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and that Faults is a really odd-toned movie about a guy who, how do I put it exactly? He's the kind of person who walks around debunking things and essentially gets pulled into a cult that kind of takes over his life. That's sort of the movie. And it's well done. It's a very small film. That was his first movie. His new movie is called The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg, and it's one of those films that is a satire of reality, and it is tonally very, very strange. And it's a delightful, strange movie. If you are a fan of Observe and Report, or possibly that previous movie, was
The Foot Fist Way.
Foot Fist Way. It's not identical to those, but it takes
both
place in a
Jody
very
Hill films.
strange universe. And the Eisenberg movie is about a gentleman who, after suffering a beating, decides that he will defend himself. And while he starts off with the idea of buying a gun, he's eventually turned to the idea of learning karate. And it is a very interesting movie about hanging out in a dojo and the weirdos that you might be spending time with. And speaking of weirdos, I think it's a good time to do another quick ad break. So let's do that now. It's like we're doing a Fantasia ad right now.
Whoa.
So did you get to select these at the last minute, or are you just throwing on whatever's queued up?
Those are the ones I was supposed to do.
Okay.
Although I think I was supposed to do this one at 2:15, not 2:45, but you guys are forgettable. As errors go, I've made worse ones.
We're fired again.
Check out CJLO.com for your chance to win tickets. This is all brought to you by CJLO 1690 AM and the Fine Boys and Ghouls ad. Fantasia!
It gets a little too excited right at the end. For such a calm...
Steady diet of heavy metal groups. And our last guy's a poser. So tune in.
I kind of like this ad, but it's not delivered very strong.
Old school, earth-shattering.
And that last guy's a poser. Could have done it a little bit more like, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only...
You got to throw that shade a little harder.
Alright, and we are back on CJLO 1690. This show is called Cinema Smackdown. We're talking about Fantasia and related movies and things from the last year, the current festival, and a few other little tidbits. Tess, you have more stuff, things you're looking forward to?
I certainly do. I have
Let's hear
a
more
pretty big list. Do
about
you have
movies I
anything
can
that you're looking
discount.
forward to, or no?
Yes, I have one, but let's hear from you. I've talked a lot.
Well, I have a few. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Shadow, which is the Yang Jimo film. He famously made such movies as Hero, House of the Golden Lotus, House of Flying Daggers,
And The Great Wall, which everyone loves.
okay, everybody has a couple misses, right? Anyway, he's well known for having a really striking visual style, so and a very colorful visual style, which is interesting because this movie apparently is mostly, if not all, black and white. So I'm super interested to see what he does with that. It should be exciting. Shadow is what it's called.
Yes, even I will admit I'm really intrigued by that one. I did see the trailer for it a while back, and
Yeah.
I tend to be on board for most of his films.
Shane, can we get you right in this moment to confirm you will attend a Fantasia movie this year? Finally, it's gonna happen.
What day is it, and who's coming with me? And
We'll talk about that off air. I just want you to say yes on the air to Fantasia. Yes to Fantasia.
Say yes to
yes,
Dress
Fantasia.
It's on Thursday.
Or am I pronouncing it wrong? Is it like the ad? Fantasia.
Yeah. Other than that, there is a movie called Satanic Panic
Yeah, I want to see that one as well.
that I'm interested in seeing. It definitely looks like a real film with sets and framing and everything. It's obviously, assuming from the title that it's going to kind of call back to the Satanic Panic films of the 70s, 80s, which are movies that I love, and it looks like a kind of a classic, well-shot horror, satanic cult film, which is exciting for me. I'm happy to see just a good, solid horror movie, if that's what that is.
We shall
see.
We shall see.
Another one I'm excited for is called 8. It's a South African kind of surreal folk horror movie
Yeah, I got a press release for it.
about a farmer who's returning to this kind of unsettled homestead where his father went broke or something like that. I'm excited for that. There's been some fairly good South African horror in recent years, so I'm excited to see what that's all about. I like folklore type stuff and surreal type stuff, so it should be interesting. Other than that, there's a documentary called Shooting the Mafia about a woman called Letizia Battaglia, who was very famous for shooting victims of mafia crimes in Italy during the sort of height of mafia corruption, and she was obviously, went through a lot of dangerous situations, threats, blah blah blah, etc., and kind of had to deal with navigating the mafia and the police and all these different things, which I think is kind of an interesting story that I'm excited to see more about.
And if I'm not mistaken, that movie is entirely in Italian with English subtitles.
I'm
It's
fine
just
with
good. Just good to know.
Subtitles on Fantasia?
that.
I remember
Well-
when it used to be all subtitles, 100%.
But now we get the art of self-defense.
Other than that, there's a movie called Riot Girls, which seems to be kind of a post-apocalyptic punk, everybody's dead and we're a gang of girls roaming the wilderness type of movie. I'm fine with it, whatever.
I'll wait to hear that it's the best one of those ever made before I watch it. I have one I am looking forward to seeing. There is a movie called Daniel Isn't Real.
Yes, I have that on my list as well.
It is directed by a gentleman named Adam Egypt Mortimer. It's a pretty memorable name. Now, I am excited about this movie merely because the man has done some very interesting work in the past. He's done 3 projects of note. He directed a short film that's in an anthology movie, much as we spoke about earlier. And much as we spoke about earlier, it is perhaps the worst anthology film I have ever seen, despite having 2 bright spots. It is a movie called Holidays, which features, I want to say 6 or 7 short films featuring different holidays. There's one for Thanksgiving and Christmas and Halloween and etc., etc. And Adam Egypt Mortimer, he batted cleanup in that movie. He did a short film for New Year's Eve, and it is a mini masterpiece. It is a genius little piece of work about absolutely disgusting serial killer who is on a dating app murdering every woman he goes out with. One by one, he is grotesque, he's unpleasant, he's super creepy. He's almost exactly like a landlord I used to have. And the movie shows him finishing someone off and then going off on his next date on New Year's Eve, and he meets a woman who is very sad but very sweet and very kind of homely attractive, and there's a moment where you think, wait, are these two actually going to get along in some fashion? And he goes back to her place, and we will ultimately learn what happens to them. It's not a very long film, but it is magnificent. And it is wonderfully realized. A truly wonderful, wonderful short film after sitting through nearly 2 hours of the worst short films I'd ever seen, including a Halloween piece by Kevin Smith that I believe was not even made by Kevin Smith. I believe it was made by whoever the biggest hater of Kevin Smith is in the world made this short
So me.
and did their level best to destroy any goodwill I had left for Kevin Smith in 7 or 8 minutes of horrible, horrible filmmaking. Beyond the worst moment in any movie
Kevin
he's
Smith
ever
has spent decades destroying any goodwill I once had for him.
And yet, 5 years ago, he put out a movie like this. So go figure.
Yeah, it happens very rarely, but at this point,
It's a slight uptick.
I'm happy to skip them unless you tell me you absolutely positively have to see
I know.
Tusk. It's like,
Yep,
well,
that's the one.
I don't regret sitting through it, but what a film.
What a film is my review as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps with a different tone.
Slightly
At any rate, Adam Egypt Mortimer, his new movie is called Daniel Isn't Real, which I have not seen yet. I look forward to, but I did quite like his piece on Holidays. He did a film a few years ago called Some Kind of Hate, which is not a perfect movie, but the filmmaking is excellent. It certainly had something to it where it's like, oh, I want to see what you do next. And prior to this, and this is the thing I recommend even the most highly, he did a comic book with Derek Robertson that's called Ballistic. That is a science fiction book about a hitman with a talking gun. And his gun is astonishingly entertaining. Everything it says to this guy is the greatest bit of writing you'll ever see. I definitely hope they make a movie out of that, because I just want to watch his Cronenberg-like gun tell him who to kill over and over and over with these sardonic and hilarious lines.
So, just like the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd film.
Exactly.
Any movie featuring a character talking to their gun. It's its own subgenre.
Indeed. So that's the one I'm looking forward to. Tess, anything else you're looking forward to?
Two more that I will talk about, although I have a much longer list.
Sure.
Culture Shock, which is a movie apparently about a woman who kind of tries to cross the Mexico-U.S. border to come into the promised land of the U.S., arrives, and then it's kind of a Stepford kind of
Just so you
dystopian
know,
pastel world, which I think is an interesting take.
while
on
they
that
are
trope.
projecting this at Fantasia, this is an episode of the TV show Into the Dark that has already aired.
Really?
It aired a month ago. No, that's fine. It's good that it's being shown on a big screen, but it's good that if anyone has
No,
already
I didn't know
seen
that.
this and is not
I didn't
aware,
know that.
because they're not running it under the banner of the show title, they're only running it under the title of the episode. So it's just good to know if you might have already caught this and not known.
Mhm.
You're sitting in the cinema
I
going,
have not.
wait a minute.
Yeah. Other than that, and another one that I'm looking forward to is called Bliss. I don't know much about it, but it seems to be a movie about a kind of artist with creative block who isn't really doing much with herself, who then starts to kind of descend into a spiral of perhaps eating people. I'm excited. I like movies where people are kind of schlubby and then turn into vicious monsters. That's kind of a nice story arc for a main character to me.
I like anything where there's a hint of the concept of cannibalism as granting you immortality.
Yes.
I like that one.
I
That's
enjoy that trope. Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Maybe I just like the idea of eating other people and not dealing with their shit. I don't know why I'm so drawn to this concept.
See, I just like the idea of living forever at whatever cost. That's why the movie Ravenous really worked for me.
Yeah.
That's perhaps the best of all of those cannibals granted superpower movies. But yeah, that's a huge thumbs up for me on Ravenous. Are you a fan?
I've seen it. It didn't really stick with me.
I've seen it. That's some high praise.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's one of those. It's like if you told me, hey, what was that film about?
I highly recommend to see it again. It's a masterpiece. It's a beautiful, really well made, really well, and there's some humor in the movie Ravenous that just hits the nail a few times. Some good black humor moments, and it is a dark and serious movie for the most part. So when the small comedy bits hit, they're quite effective in my opinion. Anything else, Tess, that you've got on your
I mean, I definitely have
to-do
more,
list?
but they start to get less and less movies I'm looking forward to,
Right.
and more movies.
Well, meanwhile, I'm waiting to hear whether I possibly might be attending Fantasia tonight. I have
Oh, that's correct.
a sort of.
We've got about 1 minute for you to tell us how great that's.
It's a semi-reunion with an old friend. We want to go see Joe Bob Briggs. His
Giving
lecture.
a masterclass.
Yeah, his masterclass about rednecks in cinema. We were fans of his books, his reviews. Joe Bob Briggs Goes to the Drive-In way back when, and he's still doing his shtick. Still doing, talking about schlocky cinema.
Yeah, I've heard that his show is excellent. It's well worth it. It's a $15 show, which apparently is more than worth the money. I don't know if the show's already sold out, but it's going to be a highlight for this year, no question. And his drive-in movie show that he does is back. He did it for 20 years in various places, and it is now back on the streaming service Shudder. And on the first night that they did this, where he would introduce trashy movies and make jokes about them and tell anecdotes, they crashed their server because everyone logged on at once.
Now, I've been enough of a fan long enough that I still have a stack of old newspaper clippings of his reviews.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's about it for our show for this week. I am Michael Brody. I am a trivia host. I'm doing a show tonight downtown at Grumpy's. It is a show called The Best Damn Trivia in Montreal. And we always enjoy it when new people come out. Come out to Grumpy's tonight at 9 p.m. It is at, remember the address? Anyway, it's on Bishop Street.
55.
No, it's 1200 something Bishop Street. But it's on Bishop Street in Montreal. It's right off St. Catharines.
Look next to the smoking remains of the Irish Embassy.
Shane, don't you have a new book out? What is it called?
I do. It's Epitaph, the sequel to Necropolis, and it's available on Amazon right now, and I'm waiting on the proofs of the paperback.
Nice. So Shane Simmons, Amazon.com, Epitaph. Tess, what's your new novel called?
My new novel is called I Have Done Nothing with My Life, The Tess Story.
I can't tell you how much I actually want to read this. Is it a tell-all other dirty things in it?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Okay, well, as I said, I do trivia on Sunday nights. I also do it on Monday nights at another location. You can look us up online at the Best Damn Trivia in Montreal. If you ever want to just come out for a fun night and get me to sign an autograph, because obviously we're celebrities.
Of course, that's what everybody is clamoring for.
All right, everybody, we've had a great time this week. We hope to see you again. Come back for Cinema Smackdown next time.
See you next week.
I think we just got that in. I think as I was turning it off, I think we got it in. See you next week.
I heard it on the phone, so.
For CJLO News,
Oi.
this is Ahmed Mushtahed.
There is no follow-up today. She, in fact,
Montreal police are
sent me a
urging
note
people
at noon to
put
say, I
their
won't be in if
mailboxes
you
with
want
locks
to
after
take
two
over my
people
hour. I
were
was like,
arrested
yeah,
for
we'll
raiding
be doing that.
mailboxes to steal people's identities in Montreal and
Could
Laval.
barely get you guys to show up
Police
for
say
this.
the suspects targeted
Another hour.
residences where mailboxes were accessible from outside the building. According to CBC News, the suspects would allegedly steal mail and open a bank account with the victim's personal information.
They don't need to steal
would
mail anymore.
subsequently
They
go
just
back
go
to
by
the
the bank.
victim's residence, retrieve the card